Hey everybody, Dr. Greco here, Crossroads School of Ministry. We have been talking about contentment all week in our Ministries in a Minute. And we talked about it as a building block for our faith. And then we mentioned that it is extremely spiritual. It's a building block for our spirituality. And it's really practical. It helps us, if we are content, it helps us keep a check on our desires, on the things that we might make idols, okay? But I think as we've worked through that, there's one aspect to contentment that is spiritual and practical, but it's also personal, okay? One of the things that we struggle with, and this has kind of been hinted at in all of these scriptures that we've talked about, the building block, the spiritual and the practical, is what do you think of you? Because in Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, blessed are the righteous, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they'll be filled. And most of us, if we looked in the mirror, do you think you're righteous? Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm righteous. Well, the Apostle Paul, though, said something else. There's nothing that can separate us from the love of God. Okay? If you're chasing after God, then you're righteous. Now, you might not be perfect, but God's righteousness has been imputed to you. It's been given to you. It's been put in you. The Spirit lives in you. And when God looks down, He doesn't see you, He sees Jesus. And so you're righteous. You have God's righteousness. Okay, now, we need to act on it. But when we ask ourselves the question, is Christ enough? It's where we started this conversation this week. We should fall back on the idea that God loves me. Okay? God loves you because you're special, because He made you in His image, because He has a plan for you. And that plan, okay, makes you hunger and thirst for righteousness. Okay, so contentment personally helps us realize that we're important. We matter to God. And when we strive for things and fail, it undercuts the idea that we're important to God. Now, it's not that we shouldn't strive, and it's not that we'll never fail, but we need to realize that God's in charge, that God has a plan, that God loves you, and that needs to be enough for us. And personally, when we look in the mirror, rather than a success or failure based on our achievement, we should say, I'm a child of the King. And that should be enough for us. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Remember that. We'll see you tomorrow for one more Ministry in a Minute about contentment.